This is Battle 2 of the tournament I went over at Christmas. It's Capture the Elves, not these pesky elves we have in Warhammer. No, these ones do not suffer any damage whatsoever. And I'm playing Ogres again. Yay! The scenario is as follows. There are 4 elves spread across the center of the board, and they will move at the start of the magic phase randomly every turn. You need to charge an elf to capture it. Once you capture an elf, it slaps you in the face. It causes d6 strength wounds to your unit, no saves of any kind allow, and that's every magic phase. And if a unit that has an elf captured gets beaten into combat, they hand over the elf. And to win, you need to have more elves at the end of the battle than your opponents. Bit of a change, my opponent on this game too was very experienced. Had a little break, I think, at the start of the 8th edition, but was back into it and has a very, very nice Ogre army. On the far left there, you cannot see it just clipped, is a Sabertooth. Then you have a unit of 3 man-eaters. They are very nice, you will see plenty of goodies with them. You have a block of Iron Guts with a Bruiser and a Spellcaster, which I forgot the name of. You get then 2 blocks of 4 Lead Belchers, and then a block of Noblars, which doesn't really matter, they will be insignificant throughout this game. In terms of magic, my opponent casts the Toughness and the Stubborn spell. He also has a unit of Yetis that will scout. Bretonnia deployment. From the left, there at bottom, you get my 7 Questing Knights ready to cover on the side. You get then the block of 8 Knight Errants with the Lord and the BSB. Next to them is my block of Men-at-Arms with the Damsel. And then at the top there, top right, you get the unit of Knight of the Realm. On my right hand side of the table, I then have my True Trebuchets and my unit of Pegasus Knights. You can see a Chimera there at the bottom. It's because I rolled the transformation of Cadon and Savage Beast. After deployment is done both sides, the Yetis scout move come in, and they come in on this side. It's not unintentional, I allowed them to come there, you will see why. 4 Yetis with a champion, I believe, in that unit. For Vanguard move, I move my Pegasus Knight a bit closer to the elf, but not charging the elf. I basically want to charge one of the Lead Belchers to stop them shooting. We'll see how that goes. Bretonnians Prey, and it's Ogre's turn 1. His units move forward, the Lead Belchers align to shoot at the Peg Knights, the Domblars don't move much, but the Man-Eaters get forward with the Iron Guts, and you'll see why. On my side of the table, the Yetis move closer to the Questing Knights. In the magic phase, he casts Stubborn on one of his units. I don't really plan to go into combat just yet, so I let it go. In the shooting phase, his first unit of Lead Belchers causes 3 wounds to my Peg Knights, and I pass my panic check. His second unit shots at the Peg Knights, 1 wound, which I save. And on the other side of the table, I don't have a picture of it, sorry. The Man-Eaters with Snipe shoot at the Damsel and cause 1 wound with poison, and I fail my ward save. And so on to Bretonnia turn 1. I fail a charge with the Peg Knights. In the movement subphases, I move forward my Questing Knights, and I turn my Knight Errant with my General and my BSB to face the Yetis and protect the flank of the Men-at-Arms. The Damsel being almost toast and pretty much gonna die in the next shooting phase from the Ogres, I decide to cast Transformation of Cadon. I score 20, which passes, so I get the bigger version, the large monster, so it has something like 6 wounds, or, I will make the Damsel a bit more resilient. He uses this spell scroll. Bretonnia shooting phase, the first Trebuchet hits the Iron Guts and removes the 2 models on the back, causing 7 wounds. The second Trebuchet misses. Ogre's turn 2, the Yetis, having nothing else to do, charge the Knight Errant, which is great. and the rest of his units move as you can see on the picture, getting closer to the men-at-arms on the left and getting more in range of the peg knights on the right. The noblars get a bit closer to the elves. The elves, pretty much we roll a lot of hits on the scatter dice, so they stayed put most of the game. Ogre's magic phase, he casts Toughness, which I dispel, and then he passes Stubborn on, I believe, the unit of Iron Guts. And as expected, in the shooting phase, he snipes the damsel off. She's gone for good. Shame, if I would have passed the transformation of Cat on the previous turn, she'd be alive and cause a lot of rampage. On the other side of the table, however, my Peg Knight passes all his ward saves and dusts off all the shooting from the lead belchers, which is great. Unfortunately for the Ogre players, my unit of Knight Errant has the BSB and the champion. I've got a rank, I've got a banner, so although he's charging me from the hill, in the end he loses by 1, fairly his very low moral check and runs off the table. I decide to reform and face the rest of his army. I'm sorry, this is the only picture I have for Bretonnia turn 3. I shuffle my men-at-arms, put them into 10 wide formation. I move my Peg Knight, you can see it is off the screen there, but just by the spell cards on the bottom, away from his lead belcher to keep him alive, keep the points away. I know it's a bit cowardly, but you see, he's going to go back into combat after and win with brio. In my shooting phase, I take off one of the man-eaters and do nothing else. And clearly that was a big mistake because Ogre's turn 3, he charges his Iron Guts into my Knight of the Realm. I should have charged them. Bretonnias, you gotta get a charge, so you're gonna be charged, may as well charge. I was hoping he would fail his long charge, but he succeeded on the, I think, an 11, so now he's got the impact hits as well, so that's gonna hurt. The rest of his army moves a bit. His top lead belcher with the noblars move closer to the trebuchets, hoping to take them off. The second unit of lead belchers on the left top side of the screen get closer to the questing knights, which are on the side of the ruin there on the left, and his man-eaters are getting closer to the general unit. He then fails to cast Toughness, Bubble, which is good news, but puts Stubborn on the man-eaters. In his shooting phase, he fails to wound the remaining Pegasus Knight. He causes 2 wounds to the questing knight, but I save them. And the man-eaters tries to snipe the BSB, causes 2 wounds, which I save. And now for some Bretonnian goodies. The combat with the Iron Guts and my Knight of the Realm with the General. My General declares a challenge, which he accepts with his champion. My General rolls and causes 2 heroic killing blows. So we check with the tournament organizer, and he counted it as a overkill of the total amount of wounds of the model you just heroic killing blow. So 3 wounds for the kill and then 3 wounds for the overkill. So 6 wounds for the general. Way. The rest of the Ogre's unit take their can opener out and kill pretty much all of my Knight of the Realm unit, bar the champion. That's 6 wounds. So his bruiser caused 1 wound. He gets 6 wounds with his unit. He's got a charge. I cause 6 wounds with my heroic killing blow shenanigans. I lose by 2. I fail my leadership on 8, 1 or 6 really, -2. And I run, but I don't run too far. This is where I stand. The men-at-arms then ensue and fail their panic check and run away from the Iron Guts towards the left of the table. Run away! Run away! Run away! Turn 3 for Bretonnia. I charge the Knight Errant with my BSB into the man-eaters. I then, in the movement subphase, move my men-at-arms towards the left of the table to try to catch that elf. there's not going to be any challenge apart from his saber-tooth, so it should be okay. Then the questing knights turn around the ruin to face the rest of his army. On the right hand side of the table, I consider charging the peg knights into the iron guts back, but decide otherwise, and I think it's for the best. You'll see after. In the shooting phase, one trebuchet hits the closest unit of lead belchers on the right hand side and causes 3 wounds. Combat phase, the man-eaters versus my knight-errants and the BSB. I cause 5 wounds, he causes 4, so pretty much depletes all my unit. He's too bored but fails his moral checks, so he runs and I cannot catch him. Ogre turn 4, this is a very quick turn, I only have 1 picture, I apologize. The man-eater rallies and turns to face the knight-errant and questing knights. His lead belcher get closer, and so is iron guts. He fails to cast his magic phase, and that's pretty much it. In the shooting phase, his leftmost lead belchers shoot at the knight-errant, cause 2 wounds, and kills the unit, leaving the BSB alone. The rightmost inside lead belcher unit take a shot at the peg knights. It's long range, causing 1 wound, but I save. In my turn 4, I charge the questing knight in the flank of the man-eater, and I charge the BSB into his lead belchers. I then proceed with the master plan with the men-at-arms and get them closer to that elves that did scatter quite a lot. And I place my lone remaining peg knights there, having weakened that unit of lead belcher. Very good shooting phase for the Bretonnians. My first trebuchet kills the nobler unit, well, kills enough, they fail the panic check, they overrun into or off the table. The second trebuchet causes 4 wounds on the lead belchers, and they fail their moral check, which is great. They have to flee from the closest unit, and that's my peg knights, so that's closer to running off the table. In the combat phase, the remaining man-eater gets killed by one of the questing knights' horse. That'll do. They then reform to face the elf and the iron guts. The BSB causes 1 wound, gets none in return, but the ogres pass their panic check. Ogres turn 5. Now we both really think about getting one of these elves if we want to win the scenario. So he rallies his lead belchers on the right hand side of the table. He then moves his unit of iron guts towards the elves, or my unit of juicy questing knights. He sees into my plan and tries to get his kitty on the left hand side of the screen there to intercept my men-at-arms. Unfortunately, my questing knights are within 8 inches and he fails his march test. In my opponent's magic phase, he tries to cast toughness on the lead belchers who are engaged with my BSB. I succeed to dispel it. He then tries to cast Stubborn and succeeds on the lead belcher, so there's going to be interesting combat with the BSB. He's got no shooting. Combat phase. My BSB in the combat phase gets 2 wounds through, gets no wounds back, but he's stubborn and passes his leadership. In Bretonnia turn 5, I charge the peg knight into the lead belcher. I pass my dangerous turn check. And the men-at-arms succeed their charge against the elf who was nearing the table edge, and they get a few wounds on, but we have one of the objectives. In the rest of the movement phase, I move my questing knight a bit backwards, so he can charge me with the iron guts, but I can counter-charge him next turn if he decides to get into the elf. In my shooting phase, the trebuchet hit the iron guts and causes 5 wounds. Onto my combat phase, my heroic peg knight, who survive all his turns of shooting, causes 1 wound through. The lead belchers fail their moral check, they run off the table. I overrun with the peg knight off the table in safety. In his own combat, the BSB causes 2 wounds, but they are still stubborn, so they stick, and that's the end of Bretonnia turn 5. Ogre's last turn, the Iron Guts charge the elf, and they get 2 wounds in magic phase for the trouble. His Saber Tusk, in an attempt to save the day, charges the flank of my Men-at-Arms. He gets stubborn on the Lead Belchers again, and I think he passes toughness as well. I failed to dispel. In combat, my BSB causes 3 wounds, gets 1 wound back but saves it. The Lead Belchers are stubborn, they are now using their general's leadership and they pass their moral check. The Saber Tusk gets killed by the Men-at-Arms, who heroically defended their captive elf, which leads us to Bretonnian turn 6. I do not charge with my 4 remaining questing knights. I do not fancy my chance against 4 Iron Guts block, including a Bruiser and a BSB. I do, however, causes 5 wounds with a Trebuchet, which wasn't bad, and my BSB fluffies his attack, so the Lead Belcher stick around for that turn. And that's the end of the game. I hope you enjoyed it. The result of the game is that we have 1 elf each, so we have a draw, 10-10. Then we calculated the secondary objective points, and I ended up with a win, 14-12, which is great. My opponent was great. He was very relaxed. It was a good game. He had a very good grasp of the rules, helped me on a few bits and mistakes. In terms of, I did ask him in the end, is there anything I could have done better? He said, I managed with my pegged knights to control the right hand side of the board, which was great, including with my trebuchet. Maybe you should have put the Men-at-Arms earlier into one of the elves, maybe caught the other elf as well. But definitely he told me I should not have received the charge from the Iron Guts. I should have charged. So good lesson learned. I will try to never get into the receiving end of the charge with Bretonians, especially with the knights. It's a bad thing to happen. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. Next, game 3.